I met a Gypsy.
Logan Martin, Olympic Gold Medalist, BMX Freestyle.
Sounds pretty good,
The
doesn't
great
it?
man. Yeah, dude, it's insane. It's a huge accomplishment. So much, obviously. I was thinking about, like, where does the Olympic prep start? And it's like, as you sit here right now as an Olympic gold medalist, that prep started the day you first rode a BMX bike, really.
Yeah, literally. It's an accumulation of every session, every gym workout from when I first started. And honestly, like it's the number of years that have gone into it is it's been everything. So yeah, honestly, like we got introduced into the Olympics in 2017. So that's sort of when my when I set the goal.
Yeah.
But honestly, everything that I've done in the past years has worked towards this moment.
Yeah, man, it's super cool, and the support. Obviously, I feel so close to you just because I'm so close to Sammy. So you guys have worked together for a long time with fist gloves, and seeing the effect that you've had on, I guess, like the community here during, like the qualification, and then while you're in Tokyo, and then, everybody was watching those runs, and then, to win the gold medal and come home. Like, it's been such a crazy deal to kind of watch unfold.
Yeah, for sure. And it's been crazy to see how much support I've had. I've won X Games and World Championships and stuff like that, and I never got the amount of support that I did at the Olympics at these other events, which makes sense. But so many people, even just the week leading up to Tokyo, so many people that I haven't heard from for years and years, message me to say good luck and things like that. And then obviously winning the gold medal, I've had the most amazing amount of support, and everyone saying look, they watched it and they enjoyed it. And my kids are starting to ride bikes now and making little jumps at their house and things like that. And it's honestly so amazing. And that's what I wanted to do. Going to the Olympics, I just wanted to showcase, what freestyle BMX is about, and hopefully get more kids on bikes. And I think I did a good job. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I mean, on the one hand, you're like this individual, and then you're an Australian, so you're trying to win a gold medal for Australia. But the fact that BMX Freestyle was in the Olympic Games for the first time ever, like, you're kind of carrying the weight of the sport on your shoulders in a way. Yeah,
for sure, because we are showcasing a new sport to a new audience. And yeah, I wanted to put BMX in a positive, represent BMX in a positive light. Which it was a big task for sure. I essentially just went out there and did what I love doing, and obviously the response we got was amazing, which I'm most stoked about. But yeah, it was a big thing being there for the first time at the Olympics.
What was that like to be in that atmosphere and around other athletes that may not have kind of come in contact with BMX Freestyle? Or, I mean, there's probably a little bit of, I guess, like a connotation associated with like an action sport as well. I mean, you've got like pole vault and decathlon, and then you've got BMX Freestyle. So, I mean, is there like this weird distinction where it's like, oh, you're an action sports athlete as opposed to like being an athlete? Or did you find that it was a really well just embraced as like you were an Olympic athlete?
Yeah, I felt like I was meant to be there. Especially when I was in the village speaking to all the Aussie athletes from all the different sports and things, and they were asking what I did, and I said I do like freestyle BMX, and they were super like, they were stoked on it. They're like, oh wow, like they didn't have much understanding of what I actually did, but they were stoked that I was there, doing that sport for the first time, and I just felt like a part of the Olympic team, and it was cool being around. Being around so many, different athletes at the top of their sport, speaking with them, how they got to the top of their sport and all those sorts of things. And just walking around the village and, trying to guess what sport certain people did, which was, honestly, it was so amazing. It was such a cool environment to be in.
Yeah, man, I can imagine that, because like you're Logan Martin, the BMX guy, and you're a god to so many people, like Olympic gold medalist. Like, what you can do on a bike is like full freak show shit. But then there's just like, you're just a normal dude, and then you're like a husband and a dad, and you got a wife, and it's like just you're a guy. And I mean, I'm sure that to get to the Olympic Village, there's like so much self-doubt. There's so much kind of there's just like this emotion that goes into it. Nothing's guaranteed. Like there's so many times throughout that process where you probably didn't feel like an Olympic athlete, or you didn't feel like you would have belonged there, you know?
Yeah.
So like to be able to mix with those people that have had those similar experiences, it must have been something pretty cool.
Yeah. Honestly, like everything you said is so true. It's like, I think of myself as just a normal person, you know, I am. But I've just had things within myself to have the, you know, the passion and the drive to, you know, go after what I want. And that's like anyone in business, all the other Olympic athletes, and everyone goes through the same thing. There is always self-doubt. There's always the unknown of, you know, how something's going to go, or how the event's going to go. You know, we're only human. Everyone goes through the same thing. But yeah, at the end of the day, I am, you know, just a normal guy. As you said, I'm a husband. I'm a father, and I just ride my bike, and, you know, I chase after goals. So yeah, honestly, like it's crazy to me that I have an Olympic gold medal. Like, growing up, I was always watching the Olympics. Never you know, did any sports that was in the Olympics. Never really thought of, you know, trying to get to the Olympics. I just, you know, I did what I did, and, you know, heading into the Olympics, I'm like, man, I literally have a 1 in 9 shot to win an Olympic gold medal, and I'm like, that's pretty good odds. And then I'm also going into it as a favorite because I won the World Championships 2 months before, and I'm like, man, I have a good chance at this. And I just stayed true to myself, and I did what I usually do at events, and I just put so much focus and so much effort into it leading into Tokyo, and then while I was there as well, I didn't let the Olympic environment, you know, affect how I was going to perform. I was still there. I was still trying to embrace everything about the Olympics, but I was still there, focused on, you know, on that one day. So yeah, honestly, it blows my mind. Yeah,
it's cool. What you just said there about like not trying to let the goal dictate like how you felt or what you did. Something that I personally have been trying to implement in my own life is not really even focusing on goals. Like, I wouldn't even say I particularly have any goals at this point, but I've definitely got a really clear idea of what a good day looks like in my life that would move me towards a goal.
For sure.
You know, and I think that I've kind of found that I've been lucky in this sense with this podcast to like blow past goals that I could have even set for myself. And I think that once I started figuring that out, like, if you can actually set goals too small, you know, and it's like if you just have this like gnarly process of like doing the best you can with all of these different verticals in your life, you actually don't know the goal that you could achieve. And I know through you personally and through Sammy, I know like you've drunk like 3 times in your 20s, and you know, you've just built this incredible facility in your house. Everything that you've done is geared towards, it seems to me anyway, of like just this process of getting better. And then it's like you get to an event like the Olympics and you don't have to do shit.
No,
you just got to stick to the process.
Yeah, exactly right. You're 100% right. And it's what you do every single day that helps, you know, the bigger goal. And that's exactly right. I stuck to doing everything that I would usually do. You know, when I was 18, 19, I stopped drinking, I stopped partying, and I just wanted to focus on, you know, feeling good every day, you know, not waking up with a hangover, and just making sure, okay, I got a good sleep last night, I can go and ride my bike and I can progress today, and then I'll do the same thing the next day, and it's just what you do every single day. And that's what I did. And I was, you know, leading into Tokyo, I didn't change much. I didn't change anything really. You know, I was making sure that every day was good. You know, I felt good every day. I was doing everything I usually do. but just consistently, just keeping it consistent. And then when I was in Tokyo, it sort of worked out pretty good. The event in Tokyo, the finals, the semifinals and the finals was scheduled at the same time as I usually ride when I'm back home. So I'm like, this is perfect. Like, I'll keep doing what I'm doing at home leading up to Tokyo, and then when I'm in Tokyo, the event is the same time I ride. Like, this is, I felt deep inside me like this is something that's meant to happen. Like, this is mine. Like, I can really do this. And it's just those little things. I just stay consistent every day, and and then when I knew that it was on the same time, like, all right, perfect. I can. If I sleep at this time and I wake up at this time, I'll go eat breakfast at this time, and every other day I feel good to ride at 10 o'clock. So it was just little things like that where it started like coming into my mind that everything's just working, everything's ready to go.
The one thing that I did notice, before we even started recording this, like, we've spoken about doing this podcast literally for 2.5 years, and we've never done it, and part of me didn't push you to do it because I felt like there was a bit of an energy coming from you that you didn't really want to do anything before the Olympics. Like, it seemed to me like you were that focused, and almost like there was going to be this, I guess, like a dump after, like, where you would want to do interviews and you would want to talk about the experience. And I don't know, man, I just really got that vibe that you were just going to work and you didn't want anything to distract you. You didn't seem like you spoke much about the Olympics. Like, I don't know. It seemed like you really tried to purposely put the magnitude of the event out of your mind until it was after the event.
Yeah, I mean, you're pretty much correct there. I actually did want to come on this podcast. I know we spoke about it a while ago, and then it sort of got put on the back burner. And I was saying to my wife, like, yesterday, once we sorted this out, I was saying to my wife, I'm like, I actually wanted to hit you up a few months ago and do the podcast, but I didn't want to be the one to reach out.
Yeah. Right.
So I was glad that Sammy hit me up yesterday, and it did come at a perfect time. So I believe everything happens for a reason. I think this is a perfect time that we did this. But I think you are correct. I did, the Olympics is massive, but I just stuck to my processes and didn't treat it like a different event until after it. Now I look back, I'm like, man, I have an Olympic gold medal, and I think if I had have been so focused and I guess overly committed to making this happen, it wouldn't have happened. If you want something too bad, I think it starts to crumble.
Yeah.
So I did. You're very correct. I did. Put the magnitude of like the scale of it to the side and just stick to my processes.
I was gonna say that's like the trust in the process, though,
exactly,
right? Is
exactly.
Like if for my end, like, I get into this studio every day about 10 o'clock and I leave every day about 6, and it's just. I never have a plan as such as what I'm like going to do, but I'm just that there's no pressure. There's no, like, I write down all the shit I could possibly do. If I don't do it, I just do it the next day.
Yeah.
But in my mind, I'm like, if I do this amount of work, this many days, and I do it every day, like, I really
and it
don't.
adds up.
Yeah. And I just feel like there's no the goal will kind of just take care of itself then, and then you're not getting so bogged down in the magnitude of certain things. And I fully got that vibe off you, and that's actually why I didn't like reach out before it. I was just like, you know what, I just feel like he's doing his thing, and being that like strong and silent type and just getting it done.
And it's sort of was that way. Even like, couple years ago or whatever, like, some schools would hit me up and say, oh, we want you to come out and do some speaking stuff. And it's like, I didn't feel like I was ready to be that guy at the school speaking and stuff like that. Now that, that I've been to the Olympics, I have an Olympic gold medal, I feel like now I'm ready for that stuff. And just things like that where I can put more time into, and podcasts and things like that, it's all come at a good time now. I believe, and I have a more solid story, I think, to go with my career. If we go back to goals and things like that, when I first started riding BMX, I wanted to win a X Games gold medal. Once I won that, I still just kept doing what I did every other day. And then, you know, the year later, I won another X Games gold medal, and it didn't slow me down. I just kept doing what I did every other day, and then, you know, the Olympics came, and I was ready for that as well. So, yeah, it just goes exactly like you rock up here at 10 and you leave by 6, and it's the same thing every day, but it's just consistency.
Yeah,
and just sticking to what you know.
Yeah, and I think that it makes sense too that, you know, like you can. The thing is, though, is like you could have gone to schools and you could have done all of this before. Like you're multiple X Games gold medalist, multiple time world champion. It's like the credentials are there, but you know this Olympic thing starts in 2017, and it's like you and Lupos are like the two dudes, you know, and then there's a couple of guys from around the world as well, where everybody was like, these are the guys that can win a gold medal. And it's like, as soon as this gets announced, you know that that's how it's going to go down. You know you're going to be in the running, and you know that you know the competition. You've competed against them forever, and it kind of makes sense to just shelve everything and even shelve any of the thoughts of what you could be or whatever until like after you know, and you either get the job done or you don't. But it's like it makes sense to put the time in and the way that you did it. Yeah,
for sure. And that was the thing. Like when we got announced in 2017 that we were going to be an Olympic sport, it was like, all right, I need to do, you know, these events, this number of events to help qualify for that. You know, me and Lupos were the two guys qualifying the country. And I mean, in 2020, like we were both going. If there was no more events, we were both going to the Olympics. And, you know, last minute, 6 weeks before the Olympics, they put a world championship on. And
that's heartbreaking for Brand too, man.
It really is. Like it's crazy the way it all played out. And it was like, okay, I'm excited that there's another event. You know, we haven't had an event for a year and a half. I was excited to go ride another event, and I knew what I needed to do. I just, you know, it's the exact same thing. I go back to my process. All right, I'm going to do this. If I do well at this event, I'll be going to the Olympics. And it was like me and Lupos even spoke about it. Like we both just have to do good. Yeah, we both just have to, you know, top the American guys, which we both can do. We've done it plenty of times, and that was the plan. Obviously, you know, some things don't work out that way, you know, the way you want it. But I just had a plan, and I went after it the best I could.
So let's go back then, because I spoke about my I guess investment in processes. That really didn't start until like I'm only a few years deep in this line of thinking. But for a guy like you that's reached the top of your sport, when did it first click in your mind that the way to go about this was to invest in not only yourself, but to invest in these processes and then do these processes consistently?
I feel like I've been doing it since the start of my career. I sort of picked it up pretty quick. Like 2013 was when I started traveling and competing, and you know, this was going to be my career, and I think I just got a quick grasp on how everything works. You know, I'm very calculated. I know what I need to do. You know, sometimes things don't work out the way you want it, but like I know what I need to do to win. I know what sort of work needs to go in, you know, beforehand leading into the events, and over time I just got more and more of an understanding of, you know, what everyone else was doing and how I can work harder than them, or how I can beat them at the event. And that, you know, the last probably few years, 3 or 4 years, I've really started to focus on, all right, I've got to do this leading into the event. When I'm at the event, I've got to do this, this, and this. But every event I'm learning new things about myself. You know, you never feel the same. Every event you feel different. The nerves are different. You deal with the nerves differently every time. But I think I've always had a pretty good understanding of how I can you know, better myself, or how I can progress further. And yeah, as I said, I just feel like I've always been fairly calculated and understand what needs to be done.
And what do you attribute that to? Like when you were young, like, because for me, I mean, I had this kind of idea of like a free, and I talk about it all the time on the podcast, but I had this idea of freedom as like doing whatever you want, whenever you want. Yeah. Like that was my idea of freedom, but that doesn't necessarily give you freedom. That kind of gives you chaos.
Yeah.
You've got a chaos of options. You've got a chaos of outcomes. Like, shit is so more unpredictable when you have more variables. Like, that just kind of makes sense. But I lived like that for fucking ever, dude. And I thought that was like the move, was to like live this like free and happy life. And it's like, it took me a long time to figure that out. But for you, you seem to figure that out early. And it's like, where did that come from, do you think?
Honestly, I don't know. Like, even, I guess when I was younger, like my mum would always say, like, I can do anything that I want if I put my mind to it. And when I look back, it's like that saying, or my mum telling me that multiple times, was had a big play on where I was going to go in life. If I really wanted to do something or achieve something, then I can, I know if I concentrate and I think about it, I can work out how to get it. It does come down to, like, yeah, your parents, instilling things in your mind when you're growing up, and that's one of the things. And I played rugby league when I was younger, and even when I was playing rugby league, I always gave it my all when I was on the field. When I was playing football, if there was a big guy there, if he was running at me, I'd do my best to tackle him. And I don't know, I've just always had that in me, just to always give it my best. And then obviously throughout my BMX career, I've just always tried to do my best. I don't really want anything if I haven't worked for it. So I think I've always just had it in me to, I've always wanted success. If I look back when I was younger, it's like, I did always want to be someone. I did always want the success, and it's like, okay, how can I do it? How can I get there? And I played rugby league, as I said, and then I started riding a bike, and it's like, okay, I can, I'm pretty good on a bike, and it just progressed from there. It's like, oh, I could make a living off this, and okay, now I can go and do this event, or I can win this event, and it just progressed. And I just always wanted something, I suppose, and I went after it.
Yeah. So for me, right, my BMX bike, that was like my first ever love in my life, was riding BMX. I used to ride my BMX bike to school every day. Every day after school, I used to make BMX jumps. We made like a makeshift foam pit. Like, that was when I look back and when I thought about doing this interview, I was like, man, that was probably like my first real taste of freedom, and my first real like creative outlet with my friends, whether it was like making jumps or trying tricks or like doing manuals and wheelies and things like that. And then when I think about it, I'm like, man, that was probably like my first ever form of escapism, in a way.
For sure.
Was that a similar thing for you? Like, what was the first attraction to riding a bike?
Yeah, no, you're pretty much bang on as well. I think when I started going down to the skate park, because I started when I was about 12, going down to the skate park, and I'd go down there after school, and it was just I could relax down there. I didn't have to worry about anything else. I didn't have to worry about school the next day, and I could just be down there, hang out with my mates, and just ride our bikes. And I think that was the same thing. It was just freedom when I was at the skate park, and I could just not worry about anything else. And I was obviously a kid. I didn't have too much going on anyway. But it was just it was super fun, and it was just a good environment. I liked the environment. I just liked riding my bike, and it progressed over time.
Do you think that dude, I remember like we grew up in Cairns and like Edmonton. It was like the skate park and the bike jumps felt like running the gauntlet every day that you were there. Like, you get bashed by some kids or some random druggo dude would rock up. So it was like, it's weird when I look back at it. It was like kind of like a scary place, but then at the same time it was almost like your haven, like your own,
for sure.
Your own little deal. But I feel like the skate park and dirt jumps kind of was like looked down upon in a way when I was growing up, and like years and years ago now. I feel like that's changing, and there's success stories. When I was a kid at a skate park, there was no famous BMX guys from Australia or anything like that, so it wasn't really like a legitimate kind of career option that you could stay in BMX and you could keep pushing and you could keep progressing, and one day you could be like Brandon Lupos or Logan Martin. And I think that's one of the biggest things that the Olympics can kind of do, is kind of make it okay for kids to invest their time in those skate parks. Because I mean, for me and my friends, we eventually grew out of that and, you know, went on to do other things, but were kind of like encouraged away from riding a bike. Right? I feel like that's probably not the case nowadays.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I agree. When we were younger, when I was at the skate park, like we were, you know, we're definitely like, oh, they're just, you know, kids messing around down at the skate park. And, you know, it was like that. Some days we'd be riding, some days we'd be messing around, or we'd just even, you know, just be hanging out and whatever. Yeah. There was definitely some, you know, sketchy dudes always down the skate park and things like that for sure. And as the years progressed, I was, you know, I don't know. I was focused on just riding my bike, so I'd only go to the skate park to ride and to progress my riding. And you know, that was sort of when I was getting out of school and stuff like that. And I was, you know, I started hanging out with Kyle Baldock. So then I sort of saw like, okay, I could.
Is he older than you?
Yeah, he's 2 years older than me. Okay. Yeah, so he started traveling overseas and doing well at events, and it's like, oh man, like we're good mates. Like we could, you know, I could follow his path, and I could see a vision of like, I can, you know, make a living off this. And it just got to the point where it's like, all right, I'm going to go overseas and I'm going to try my luck and see how I go. And yeah, now that it's an Olympic sport, kids can start off from a young age and be like, all right, I want to go to the Olympics. Like, this is my pathway now. Whereas when I was younger, it was sort of just, you know, you're just guessing what you should do. You know, I had a bit of guidance with Kyle for sure, but I was still just sort of guessing and sort of just, you know, gambling with where I wanted to go, to be honest.
Man, I knew you and Kyle were close, but I didn't know that he was kind of like the dude that was a couple of years ahead of you. That's pretty important, eh? To have that one dude that's a couple of years older, he's getting a car a couple of years before you are and going overseas and making a career out of it. Like, that actually is a pretty crucial figure to play in someone's like sporting career. Yeah,
for sure. And I always go back to that, and it's like he was my idol when I was growing up. Like I met him at the skate park, like, man, this dude's crazy, like he's super good. I think I met him when I was around 16, so it was sort of the same time like I was finding new people to ride with. I was, you know, starting to get out of school, and my other mates were starting to get jobs and stuff like that, the guys that I first started riding with. So I was traveling to different skate parks and meeting new friends and stuff like that. And then me and Kyle started hanging out quite a bit, and we'd always, you know, I'd go sleep on his floor on the weekends, and we'd go to the skate park on the Saturday and Sunday. And we just created like a really, really good friendship, and he just took me under his wing pretty much. And it was, you know, it was good to have that guidance, because, you know, it helped me so much. And he knew where he was going. Like, everyone could see that he was going to be the guy. You know, he got multiple X Games gold medals and stuff now, but you could just see that he was going to be the guy. And it was cool that we created such a good friendship, and I could, you know, get guidance from him. And that played a massive part in where I am now.
Yeah, that makes sense. Was there a day, like even when you were younger, where there was like a bit of a light bulb? Like, maybe it was like a trick that you learned, or a day where you just like put together a bunch of like really, I guess, like big shit together at the skate park, to where you've kind of solidified a self-belief in a way? Because there is a pretty intense level of self-belief that you have to achieve what you've achieved.
For sure. And I don't know if there was a single day or a single moment. If I look back at it, when I was 16, I learned flare whips, which, you know, that's pretty good at 16. And I think from there, it's like, oh shit, like I'm doing tricks that professionals are doing,
they're doing at
competitions. Yeah. So I'm like, fire. Like, if I, you know, if I go back to earlier than that, me and my friend were just at the skate park, and we're like, oh, imagine if we learned a trick every day for the next, imagine how good we'll be when we're 20. And that sort of just stayed in my mind, and it was like I stuck with it. My friend, you know, got over it. But that sort of stuck in my mind. And yeah, when I started learning tricks that, you know, pros were doing in competitions, it's like, if I keep going and I keep, you know, staying dedicated to learning new tricks every day, then I can do this. And I enjoyed it so much, which made it easier. And when I was learning the tricks, and I'd do them every day, so I'd perfect them, and everything would start feeling easier over time. And that's sort of where it was. Like, I started learning the bigger tricks when I was around 16, 17. And then, a couple of years later, I could do it consistently. And it's, you know, oh, no, let's go to an event and try do it at an event.
Have you ever put much thought into why maybe you stuck with it when other people didn't?
I was never really a party guy. I think, my other mates were more into partying than I was. So, don't get me wrong, I would go to the parties and stuff with them throughout my schooling years. And, on the weekend I was looking for the next party and things like that. But I was always like, all right, I'm going to go to this party tonight, but I'm going to go ride tomorrow still. You know what I mean? I'm not going to let this party affect me tomorrow. I'm still going to go ride my bike. And I think I just had that in me. I just, I didn't really enjoy that, like the party lifestyle. So yeah, as I said, when I was 18, 19, I stopped drinking because I wanted to focus on BMX. Whereas, 16, 17, my other friends just sort of let the party life take over, and they were enjoying the party life more, so they'd miss the weekend sessions and then they'd come back throughout the week or something like that, and I think I just didn't let the party life interrupt where I wanted to go, and I just enjoyed riding my bike, so I ended up giving up the party life and focusing on where I wanted to go.
Yeah, it is pretty gnarly, that age group, right? Like, and I mean, people can look at you as the Olympic Gold Medalist and multi-time world champ, and they can put that down to talent. And I think a lot of guys that, will get blind on the weekend, and then they're like, the next time they go to a skate park and then they see you just like murdering it, they're like, fuck dude, he's just so talented. Like, do you think that there is this special relationship between talent, or do you think that it's just talent is something that is earned, and it's something that comes as a result of sacrifice and time, and like that it is just this consistency and just this work ethic that kind of plays into it?
Yeah, I mean, there is somewhat a thing as natural talent,
which I definitely agree with. There are naturally talented people
for sure. And I like the quote, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard.
Yeah,
because from that quote, I could see, I had a bit of talent, and I knew if I could work hard, then I could be someone great. And I could see the talented, I could beat the talented guys. Some of the guys that didn't put as much work in, but were very talented. So I sort of stuck with that. But there is somewhat natural talent, but you can't be someone great if you don't put in the work either.
Yeah.
Talent will only get you so far. You definitely got to put in the hard work too.
Yeah, because I mean, I think that I was definitely in the category of people that, so like my brother, for instance, like we're 18 months apart, and he's always been more quote unquote talented than me. And then as I start to, look back at his life of riding a motorcycle, I mean, you just got to look at the hour meter on the bikes to see who rode more, and, who wore out more parts, and who wore out more, more pairs of boots, and who put the fuel through the motorcycle. And it's like, damn, he's probably got like hundreds of hours worth of time on me. So it's like, where does talent factor in? And then, in my own riding, it's like, you can see that when you do put time in, you get better.
For sure.
And I think that it's probably one of the things that, or like one of the messaging points that I really like talking about these days is like, yeah, there is this natural talent thing, but that quote that you just spoke of, that is kind of a real thing. And you can see, I guess, the way that you've invested in yourself, and the way that, you don't go party. Because, man, when you're a young kid going and drinking and, doing the party thing, and then giving up like days of your life to that lifestyle, it's like there isn't a lot of productive work that can get done towards your goal, like in that time,
Yeah, exactly. And I saw that early on. It's like, and if I look back at it now, I'm like, I'm glad I did party through those, through those schooling years, because I got it out of my system. I found out it wasn't really for me. And when I was 18, I stopped drinking, stopped going to parties, and just, focused on feeling good on the weekends and feeling good throughout the week to go and ride and just focus on BMX. And I think, that's one of my sacrifices is I gave up partying. I gave up hanging out with my old mates, so I could go and ride, and hanging out with new mates, which would help progress my riding. And, I mean, it does come with sacrifices too. You do have to sacrifice, but that's one of the things that I gave up, which, essentially wasn't for me anyway. And it all worked out. I guess in my early on in my career, I was, and it wasn't really like this for BMX, but I wanted to treat it like a professional sport. I wanted to make sure I was eating good, make sure I was working out, make sure I was fit and healthy so that I could, do good on my bike. And I took that early on, and I just kept doing that and kept doing it every day. And that was sacrificing partying and hanging out with those mates.
It's hard though too, because you start to distance yourself from those guys, and then that comes with baggage, man. Like you got to deal with that. And it's funny, like I was talking to my housemate about this the other day. He used to be a bender dude, like he used to go party and he'd go on benders with the boys from where he grew up with, and then he actually went out with them the other night, and then they're like, oh, we'll get beers. Oh, you drinking, Joe? Oh, you probably don't want a beer. Like they, after years, they just knew that he wasn't gonna drink. Yeah, and I mean, it's the same for me. Like people know when I go out, they're like, hey, like Jace doesn't really drink. Yeah. So it's like, it takes quite a bit of work to get to that point where, like, I guess you got to go through a bit of shit with your old friends that trying to drag you back in, because whether they know it or not, I mean, I think that the mates that want to like, nah, mate, what are you doing? Just come and drink. Like, you'll be fine. There's kind of a little part of them that I think there's like a reflection on them as to like, oh, he's going and doing that, where it's sort of like they know it looks bad on them in a way. So they're kind of trying to drag you back. So, I mean, even though like you said the party life wasn't for you and it didn't make you feel good, like there is still a lot of external pressure that comes with trying to like ditch that lifestyle, especially when you're around it. Like BMX boys are wild boys. For sure,
100%. And that was sort of when, I started turning down parties, and, my friends would, start, he doesn't want to come out, he doesn't want to drink, or
you for the boys, mate? You're not for the boys anymore?
Exactly. Or like I'd go out and I wouldn't drink, and then, like I remember one of my, he didn't say it to me, he said it to someone else, and I heard about it. He goes, don't worry about him, he's a BMX nerd. It's like, yeah, I'll take that. I mean, I enjoy BMX. I don't like it. I didn't never let stuff like that get to me. So that was sort of as I was getting out of the partying scene. And then when I started traveling and going to events, like all the boys at the events would go out drinking the night before the event, and they'd, ride the contest hungover, and then they'd go out partying after the event, and like, oh, you coming out? I'm like, nah, like I don't drink. Like, I don't, that's not me. And then I would just stay in my hotel room, and I'd fly out the next day. And yeah, I mean, it got to the point where, even after the first year of competing, everyone stopped asking me to come out, or stopped asking me to party, just because they knew that, I was so strong-willed and I wasn't going to give in to the party life, because I had goals that I wanted to go after. And it just comes back down to doing that every day. I just, I kept saying no to everyone that asked me to come out and party, and you won the event, are you going to come out and celebrate? It's like no, that's not me. I'm flying home tomorrow. I'll get home, have a couple of days rest, and I'll be back into it, working for the next event. And yeah, it does come with that stuff. But after the few years of constantly saying no and not drinking, your friends start to understand it. They start to see how well I was doing, and they stopped asking me to come out and party and drinking and stuff.
Yeah, and then exactly what you said, they see a gold medal around your neck and they're like, fuck, I guess he was right.
Yeah, exactly right. And it is good, because you've got people start talking shit about you, or start just making up stuff, and they just don't want to sort of be around that anymore, or they don't at the time they don't quite understand it. And then when they see that stuff, see that there was a reason why I was saying no to go and partying and things like that. I had things that I wanted to do, and now that they understand it, it's like, yeah, well, you should have understood it back then, but you live and you learn. But yeah, you're exactly right. They see that stuff now, and they understand why it all went the way it did. Yeah,
and I think it is an important message, man. Like to get out there. It's definitely a cultural thing, like for Australians and most of the places where I've traveled, like people like to party. But if there is like a pressure that any kids that are listening to this feel, to drink or to get into drugs or to do any of that shit. It's just like, you can say no.
Yeah, exactly.
And after a while, people stop asking.
Yeah, exactly. And I was that guy. It was like people would pay me out because I wasn't going to drink or didn't want to go, do the drugs they were doing and stuff like that. I was so content with being sober. I didn't need to go out and party, and I didn't need to feel accepted by other people. I just wanted to go and do what I wanted to do. So I was happy to say no and, get bagged on or whatever because I wasn't going to party with my friends. I was happy with that. And, when you look back at it now, it's like, yeah, I did get paid out quite a bit because I kept saying no, or I was the pussy.
Yeah.
But it was all for a reason. And, now I've gone through that and I look back at it, I'm like, yeah, it was all for a reason. So, if you don't want to do something, definitely just say no and stick to that. I also never felt like I was missing out saying no to going to parties and things like that. So that made it easier for me as well because I just, I was like, I'm going to get a good night's sleep and I can go ride my bike or I can go do whatever I'm going to do the next day to progress in the direction I want to go to.
Did you feel like there was a point where like it was hard for you to stay on the grind? Because I mean, again, like from my own personal experience, like there's definitely times, but like let's say you've got a week, maybe there's 2 days in a week where the grind just feels like pointless. You're just like, why the fuck am I flogging myself like that? What for? Is there times where you go through that, or do you think that, or like, what's that timeline look like of just staying so committed to something and just like, is there waves for you of like, this is my purpose, and then the next there's like a down of like, what the fuck am I doing this for?
So I always have purpose. Like I never question why I'm doing something. It's always pretty much to work towards the next event. Whenever the next event comes up, I want to be ready for that.
Is there something bigger than that though?
Not really. Like not really, to be honest. I mean, there probably is. I just want to, while I can ride as many contests as, while I can ride contests, travel, do freestyle BMX professionally, I want to just be working towards being the best.
Yeah.
And that comes in many different forms. But for me, it's like, all right, I'm as good as I was, I'm as good as I am as my last event. If I came fourth, all right, I'm back there. So I just constantly keep working towards doing well at events, and that's what keeps me happy. And working towards the events is what keeps me happy. But there's definitely days where there's no motivation. If I look back, when the GC compound was going through its last couple of years, the scene was pretty dead, and I would go to the compound and I'll just this is an indoor skate park in Coomera that shut down in 2015. I would go there just by myself and just be like, fire out, like, well, another day here by myself, and I'll just have my session, I'd do all my tricks, and then I'd wrap it up and I'd go home. And
but they're the gnarly days.
They are.
Like those days are hard, dude, to get through, and not to just like pack up early and just go home.
No, exactly. And I think as well as, there is some quotes that I like to live by, and back then it was like, you have to put in the work when no one's watching as well, or some quote along those lines. But the work happens when no one's watching too. And that was me rocking up to the compound, the GC compound, and just riding and putting in the work. Like not just rocking up to the compound just to be there. Like I was there and I was putting in work whether someone was there or not. And that would happen for a few months, and then some people would pop up, and I would have a few months of riding with people, and then the GC compound closed, and then the scene died, like really died. Everyone started getting jobs, and the few guys that were committed to riding, I had my mate J-Dog. He'd work Wednesday to Saturday or something, so he'd have Monday and Tuesday off. So we'd ride together Monday, Tuesday, and then for the rest of the week I'd have to find someone else to go and ride with, and I'd just go to a different skate park and ride with someone else. And those times were tough because I'm not even riding a proper training facility. It's just riding a concrete skate park, and trying to do all my gnarly stuff every day is hard at a concrete skate park. So there's definitely been ups and downs, but I've never lost purpose. I've always woke up and be like, all right, I got to go ride my bike. This event's coming up or whatever. And even like when COVID hit, it was like, all right, I've never lost motivation. Obviously there's a day or two there where sometimes I'm not motivated, but I never not go. If I wake up unmotivated, I still rock up if I plan to go to the session. But throughout the year and a half off with COVID, it was like I was riding every day, learning new tricks, and I was staying ready for whenever the next event happened. And that was what I was doing. I stayed in the routine, and everyone's like, did you lose motivation? Like, no, because I just wanted to stay ready. I didn't want to slack it off for 6 months and then have to get ready really quick. I didn't know when the next event was going to be, so I stayed ready. And yeah, I don't know. I just find all these my own little purposes as to why I can keep going every day. Whether there's motivation or not, I still show up and I still get the job done. If I'm like, man, I'm super sore and I'm tired today and I was planning to ride, I'll go and ride and do all my stuff, do all my tricks. Maybe I'll just have a bit of a smaller session, but I'll still go and put the work in. If I plan to go to the gym, at 6 a.m. and I woke up super tired, I'll get up and I'll go to the gym. Like, I just show up, and once I show up, I put the work in.
Yeah.
I never show up and just, mess around.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's sessions you'll rock up and you'll try and ride and your body's too tired or whatever. Yeah, exactly. Where you just call it and be like, all right, it's not smart to just keep riding today, or you get into a shit mood or whatever. But I always show up and do my best to put in the work. And I always just find my own little purposes as to why I can keep going.
Man, there's a funny thing with motivation. I was sitting at home the other day. I'm pretty sure it was like during the last like little lockdown thing. And I'm like halfway through making a YouTube thumbnail. You're in the YouTube game. I know you know how that goes. And I was making this thumbnail, and I'm literally like halfway through, like a pretty complicated task, I'm cutting out an outline manually. And then I was like, no motivation. So I went and I checked my iTunes stats and I like refreshed them. And halfway through it, I'm like, what are you trying to find? Like, what are you looking for here, dude? Yeah. Like, you're going to see it go up by a couple thousand, downloads on your episodes, and, you'll see your monthly go up, but it's like, that isn't real. No. That's like a number that you're looking at. And then in your own mind, you have to associate that with motivation. So it's like, you don't know what that number is that pops up on the screen.
No, for sure.
But you're going to see something, and then if it's a lot, you're going to give yourself more motivation. Yeah. And if it's not a lot, then you're probably not going to get much motivation. Yeah, exactly. But either way, you're the one that decides the value. So It's like, I'm like, why can't I just, like, if I'm the one that creates this so-called motivation that I'm seeking, why should I let these numbers be the thing that dictates the amount of motivation?
Yeah,
how about I just get the maximum amount of motivation from me without even looking at these stupid numbers,
exactly. And just do it whether those numbers are high or low. Just do it because that's what you want to do.
Yeah, 100%. And it's like, but I think the main kicker was like, it's me that decides that motivation.
Yeah,
like
right.
I see the number and then I decide whether that's good enough for me to be motivated or not. Like it's a fully internal thing.
100%.
And after that, man, I was just like, and again, they're like those little insights that, you get that I don't think I can unlearn that now.
Yeah.
Like sure. When I go to look for a little bit of motivation, I don't think I can ever unfeel what I felt in that moment. Like I felt that motivation was completely pointless.
Yeah.
And that it was all going to come from me anyway.
Yeah.
So I might as well make the motivation regardless of what those numbers are.
Yeah. Do it regardless, because the motivation does come from within yourself.
Yeah.
I think it's a solid little statement.
Yeah, but it's weird, that you can kind of look for those kind of things outside yourself when it kind of is just up to you anyway.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like, it makes sense that if the numbers are way more, you'd get more motivation.
Yeah.
But you're the one that decides.
Yeah, you're the one that decides what number that is.
I think one of the things too that has been kind of cool to watch as well over the last few years is you've obviously figured out something around investing in yourself. Obviously you invest the time into the training and, like eating right and all those sorts of things. But to make the kind of skate park that you did in your front yard, I mean, like that's a huge investment there as well. So I mean, at some point along the line, you've really figured out that investing in yourself is a good idea as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it just comes down to being calculated, knowing what you need to do to progress, or knowing what I needed to do to progress. It was either move overseas to where there's bigger and better skate parks, because there was there was only concrete skate parks around me, or build a skate park in my house where I can keep up with my level of riding. So it just came down to how I can keep bettering myself, how I can keep progressing. And at that point, I was working out, I was healthy, I was feeling good on my bike, I was riding as much as I can, and all those things. And it was like, okay, how can I get even more advanced? And that thing was riding a better skate park every day would help progress me and help progress my riding.
What was the process then? Because that was actually one of the things I was going to ask you is, like, you never moved to America. Like, obviously you traveled over there. But that seems to be the thing that people do in BMX. Like, if you want to do good in BMX freestyle, you move to America, you move to like North Carolina, and you ride those skate parks over there. So is that actually like the deciding thing? Is you were like, okay, I'm not going to move. I'm just going to invest in having like my own facility here.
Yeah, pretty much. I never really wanted to move overseas. Like, I love Australia. I love where I grew up, and then now I'm living on the Gold Coast, and I love the Gold Coast. So it pretty much was that when the GC compound shut down in 2015, I'm like, all right, I need a resi, I need a jump, I need a box jump where I can practice my bigger tricks on. And I built a resi ramp where I could just go and do all my bigger tricks. And that was just a small investment, but it helped me for those next few years where I could, do some bigger tricks. But it was just one jump. It wasn't a full skate park. It was just one jump. Maybe cost around $5,000 to build or something like that. And then it just got to the point, 2018, I was starting to be like, I really need a skate park. Like, I can't just keep riding these concrete skate parks. And my level of riding just sort of plateaued. It just stayed the same. It never really increased over those years. I was just being consistent with riding every day, and I was making my tricks like flawless in a sense. And I could go to contests and do those tricks, but I wasn't doing the biggest gnarliest tricks like some of the other guys were. I was just more consistent than them. And then it got to the point where the other guys are doing bigger tricks and starting to do it consistently, and it's like, all right, I really need to start doing a lot of my bigger tricks or start learning bigger tricks. And that was just like, well, I need to build a skate park. I was looking for a property with enough space, or where I could do it. I didn't want to sort of go out like Jim Boomba ways out west. I didn't really want to go away from the Gold Coast. And I ended up finding a property. It was just over an acre. And then I'm like, well, I'm going to do that. I'm going to buy a property with enough space, and I'm going to build a skate park. And I did that. I bought the house in December of 2018, and then May in 2019 we built the skate park.
And what was the result of that? Like, did you get out of that what you hoped you would?
100%.
Really?
It was like,
so it's sick.
Yeah. I built it the way I wanted it. I built the things that would help progress. Yeah. My own riding and sort of replicate what is overseas and what's at the events. And I built it in May. In 2018, I won my first X Games gold medal. In May 2019, I built the skate park, and then in July, X Games came around again, and then I won 2 gold medals. And I don't think if it wasn't for the skate park, I probably wouldn't have won those 2 gold medals. I had learnt tricks. I had been doing my bigger tricks every day at my house, and that helped me win the 2 gold medals, I believed. And that contest there just paid for the skate park. Right. It paid it back. And the biggest goal was like, all right, I'm going to build this skate park to help me get to the Olympics. So it's going to help me do good at each qualifying event to get to the Olympics. And once I had won the 2 X Games golds, it's like, all right, well, no, I don't need to worry about the skate park anymore. That just got paid off from X Games, and now I can just keep riding the skate park and working towards the Olympics. And the biggest goal was to help me get to the Olympics, and then it helped me win the gold medal 100%.
So how do you go at your level? Like, how do you go about learning new tricks?
So these days it's just about combining new tricks. every trick's sort of already done, you know, to a point. You have, you know, Willie doing a lot of big, gnarly, new tricks, new spins and things like that, but it's just combining tricks together. You know, he has a massive jump, and he's...
Yeah, his is like a different... Like, he's just in the air for a longer time.
Yeah, exactly right. So, it's pretty much now, like, you're just combining new tricks, or you're adding an extra spin or an extra whip in the flip or something like that, and it's just combining them and seeing how many tricks you can get, how many combos you can do in one air, I guess now. You know, five or six combos in one jump, and then it's going to start to be like, you know, doing five or six combinations back to back, and then it's just going to progress where, you know, in 1 60-second run, you're doing, you know, minimum 5 combos every trick or something like that. You know what I mean? It's just progressing through
in that sense
through bigger combinations. Yeah.
And like, in your head, how do you stay on top of that? Like, is that what you're thinking of, like, when you're going to, you know, the front yard every day to put in that work?
Sure. I mean, I understand my own ability, and over time, if you are consistent and, you know, every day I'm riding, and, you know, if I ride every day and I do, you know, I learn a new trick and I do that trick every day for the next year, imagine how much easier it's going to be next year. And then next year comes around, and then you're like, oh, now I can do this trick easy. I'm going to add something to it, add a bar spin or add an extra spin to it. But it's not just learning a trick and leaving it for the next, like, not doing it for a year and coming back to it and expecting it to be easier. It's doing it every day, working at, you know, every little movement that's involved in the trick, and then over time it becomes easier and easier. You know, for instance, I learned like opposite triple tail whips about a year ago, and when I was first doing them, it was, you know, it was quite hard. I was really concentrated on doing it, and it was like it was every session it was like, oh, you know, I got to do the switch triple whip today. Like, all right, I'm going to do it, and I have to amp myself up for it or whatever. And then now it's like, you know, second nature to me. I can do it pretty much, you know, any time. And that was just because I was doing them every day. I was scaring myself enough every day and doing it every day, where over time it just became natural and easier.
Yeah. How do you deal with the scaring yourself thing? Because that is tough to go and face. Like,
for sure.
For me, like, there's times where, especially when I'm not doing jiu-jitsu a lot, where like every class, like every Monday morning class is just heavy. Like, there's just dudes that are so much better than me there, and they're just gonna beat the shit out of you. And it, like, there is even though I know I'm like not really gonna get injured and I'm not gonna get like hurt badly, but it's like, it's still scary. Like, there's still an element of like facing that fear every day. But on your, like, with what you're doing, I mean, not comparing the two, like what you're doing, there's just like crazy risk that's involved every day, and you've got to show up and figure out a way to overcome that. Like, what is your process there?
I think I overcome the fear by just not thinking about what could go wrong. It's always like, what could go right? I guess in a sense, it's like, all right, I know how to do it. Let's, you know, I'm ready. I'm warmed up. I can go and do, you know, every session I do all my big tricks, all the tricks that scare me.
Yeah, that's the gnarly thing with you. You do everything every day. Yeah,
exactly. And I think as time goes on and I'm like, I've been doing stuff every day, doing all my bigger tricks every day. It's like, now it's just normal for me to go and do all my bigger tricks once I'm warmed up. All right, now I do this trick and now I do that trick. And I think it was just, you know, you get scared from not wanting to get injured.
Yeah.
But I wanted to be good at riding a bike more than I cared about being injured.
Yeah.
I think if that sort of makes sense. I never really concentrated on the injuries. I knew injuries are a part of it. As time goes on, it's like, injuries are a big part of this sport, but how bad do you want to succeed? And, you know, for me personally, I know contest riding is about consistency. So that comes with doing my big stuff every day. So when it comes time for the event, it's not like, you know, is today the day that I can land these bigger tricks? I know it is because I've been doing it every other day. And yeah, I think I just wanted to be successful on a bike more than I cared about injuries.
Yeah, and I guess that's the equation that kind of works. So what would you say your strengths are, as I guess, as opposed to the people that you're beating in these competitions. I mean, one thing that I like when I watch your runs at the Olympics, for instance, and when you ride at home, there was a cool video me and Sammy watched the other night of you, Kyle, and Tui playing a game of bike.
Yeah.
And it's like you can just see the force that you generate on the up ramp. Like there's just a different. It's like you're hitting and carving, especially for like the spin and flip tricks. Like there's a force that you're carving into the ramp that to me looks different to other people.
Yeah, sure.
But what is it that you see in your riding against the people that you are beating consistently in these competitions?
I think it just comes down to consistency. I like to live by staying dedicated, and that comes with being consistent. Staying dedicated every single day to bettering myself or feeling good on my bike, and that's what it's about. Consistency in my life, consistency on my bike, consistency in my runs. It's all about consistency. Consistency overall at every event. I like to just be consistent in every aspect of my life, and it's hard to say, but like it is just that. It's just I put so much time into it. I put so much time into just being the best I can be without slacking off. I don't know. It's a tricky one, but it's just that. Like I just do my best to stay consistent and be the best version of myself. I don't like to slacken off. I always like to work hard.
So from my perspective, like outside looking in, that seems like the move, and it's obviously proven. You've won your Olympic gold medal. But for somebody that is like essentially obsessed with consistency and obsessed with their processes, is there like a level of anxiety that you've had to overcome around like being in control of all those factors? Because that's the downside, right? So I know that I feel most anxious or most stressed when I don't feel control of my schedule. Like I really have grown to appreciate routine, and I know bad weeks. Like I have metrics in my life. Like if I don't meditate every day, or if I start slipping on the meditation, if I don't get to read in the mornings, if even as simple as like if I'm not making my coffee at my house in the morning, like I know the structure that works for my life.
Sure.
But then it's like, how do you balance not getting completely railroaded when like you lose control of those things,
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. Like, I mean, obviously
Do you face that as well?
Yeah, for sure. 100% I do. And like, I could be doing the same thing every day leading up to an event. I'll go and win the event. And I'll go home, I'll do the same thing leading up to the next event, and then I'll lose the event, or I'll mess up or whatever. And it's, it's like those things just happen. And I think over time, it's hard when you don't do well in an event when you want to do well.
Yeah.
I think these days I'm content with everything I've done, so I don't put expectations on myself to go and win an event just because I've done the work. I think I just go to an event knowing that I've done the work, so I'm going to do my best.
Yeah.
So I
and
try.
Then there's like an acceptance of whatever comes of it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's hard. It's hard in a sense still because I still want to be winning, but I'm content with everything. Like for instance, if I went into the Olympics, like, man, I'm so content with everything I've done now. I just won the World Championships. Whatever happens at the Olympics. I've done the work. I can't control how it's going to play out. The only thing I control is the work I put in, and how I can do my best. And I was even throughout the week, I'm like, what's going to be will be. Just try and stay calm. Just do what you do, and just let it be. Just let it be. And I think, I don't know how it would, if it went the wrong way, I don't know how I would be, but that's just the way I was thinking leading into it. I was content with all that, but I think the biggest thing is try not to put expectation on yourself.
Yeah.
I'm trying to live my life expectation free. Just do my best. That's it. And it's, that's working hard and really going after what you want without limiting yourself.
Are you a big reader?
No, I don't read. I'm so slow at reading.
Audiobooks or anything?
On the odd occasion.
There's a cool one that I read recently. It's called The Four Agreements. And it's like, be impeccable with your word. Don't take it personally. Do your best. Fuck. You always forget one. But anyway, do your best is obviously like one of the kind of main chapters of the book. And I think it's just such like a great advice for anyone to do. Like,
for sure.
And that's sort of been one of the things that, like, when people say like, oh, how you been? What are you doing? I'm like, yeah, just doing my best.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like it's such a great way to live your life. And again, it's like when there's you don't have to have expectations of an outcome or be attached to an outcome when you do your best. Like, and it's like your best is good enough in the sense that it's kind of all that you can do.
Yeah, exactly.
But your best might not be good enough to get the result or to win the event or whatever. But there is some solace that you can take in, like, if you genuinely know that you have done your best.
Yeah, exactly right. And if you've worked hard to go to an event and you don't do well there, like, it's you've got to reflect back on, like, okay, what could I have done differently, or what could I have done that would have benefited me more to get a better outcome. And over time, if you just stay committed to bettering yourself each time, or just reflecting back on where you can better each day or each hour, then, eventually it's going to work out. It's just, once again, about staying consistent to that process.
And how detailed are you in this? Like, is this like top down in your life? Are you looking at every angle from sleep to physical training to, like, have you got a daily routine? Like,
everything.
Explain the level that this reaches into your life.
Even just recently, like, leading into the World Championships, I was, I have a bad back, right? Bad lower back, and it's been pretty good the past year. It played up in October, but since then it's been pretty good.
What's it from?
Just from working out and riding a lot and
crashing.
All that sort of stuff. So October sort of started playing up, and after it sort of got better from there, I changed up a few things in my routine, and for the next till June, so next 8 months or so, it was good. And then closing into the World Championships, my back started getting sore again. I'm like what? Like, why is my back getting sore now? I haven't changed anything in the last 8 months. I've done everything the same thing. I ice my back every single night, every night that I ride and work out. And, like, why is it getting sore now? So I just Googled something real quick, and, like, can you get lower back pain from stress? And I'm like, maybe I'm getting stressed out because there's an event coming up, and that was a big factor. I'm like, fuck, maybe I need to start meditating. And I started meditating leading into the World Championships just so I could, relieve some stress and things like that. And that was just me reflecting back on where I can better myself, where I can, do even more than what I'm doing. And that was just, all right, I'll do some meditation. I'll try and relieve some stress from my body. And then my back started feeling good. And, I don't know if it came down to that, but I was definitely feeling better leading into Worlds, doing some meditation. And, I'll eat the same breakfast every morning. I'll pretty much go and ride the same time every day. And, just down to the smallest things. If I, as I said before, if I ride and work out at nighttime, I'll ice my back without question. Literally, I'm very routine as well. Without having a written down schedule, I'm very, very routine, and and I just stick to that, and I just try and how can I better this part of my life? All right, I need to do this. Even in my relationship, like if there's an issue, we address the issue, me and my wife, and I'll try and see it from both sides, both points of view. And if I'm in the wrong, I'll do my best to fix that and not make that happen again. And I just think about things, and I think how I can better that situation, or better that, make a solution out of that. And I don't know. It's just I just think about things and I try and fix them.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure.
So with the meditation stuff, so what does that look like for you? How did you get into that? What's the stuff that you follow? Like, how do you do it?
Yeah, so I just downloaded an app on my phone, and then I would,
what app do you use?
Headspace.
Yeah.
So I when I Googled that, I'm like, all right, I'll check out some meditation apps, and I would just, chuck the spa on. I'd go in the spa, and I'd just listen to some meditation, and it was stress, like relieving stress or getting ready for a competition. and I would just listen to that. You know, maybe I was doing that about 4 times a week, maybe, where I'd sit in the spa for, you know, an hour. I'd do, you know, chuck on a 20 minute meditation, and I would just do that, and I would just feel relieved, and then I would just hang out in the spa a little bit while my wife's at work, and just hang out by myself. My son's sleeping. It's just some time to myself to relax, and that was helping me just, you know, stay as stress free as possible leading into the World Championships, which was, you know, the last qualifying event for the Olympics, and then I didn't change anything from the World Championship prep to the Olympic prep.
So what was the experience of meditating like for you when you first started? And like, would you say you got like better at it, or did it evolve? Did you learn to like it more? Yeah, for
sure. So like the first session or two, I was like, I don't know, you know, I don't know how I feel about this. I was definitely like zoned into meditation, and I was, you know, by the end of it, I was almost asleep, and I could really just not think about anything except the meditation while I was doing it.
Yeah, okay. And was that easy for you to do?
That was pretty easy for me to do, yeah.
Do you associate that to riding at all?
You know what? I think I've always just had that in me. Like even if I'm at a contest and I'm going over my run in my head, I can stay focused and concentrate on my run, and nothing else, you know, nothing else comes into my mind, and you know, that's
a fucking beautiful skill.
Yeah, for sure. And I, you know, one of my mates, Dale O'Brien, told me, I was telling him that I could do that in like maybe 2014 when I was at an event. He's like fuck, that's good. And then I was like, yeah, I mean, that's just natural. Like nothing else enters my mind when I'm focused on that one thing. And when I was meditating, that was the same thing. I was focused on the meditation. Like obviously you have thoughts come and go for sure, but I was still in the meditation zone. And yeah, like as the sessions went on and I was doing more and more, it was like, okay, I can definitely see like benefits here, and I feel relaxed after it, and I feel good. But yeah, like as they went on, I started to enjoy it more and more for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's crazy to hear you say that. Like I think I put like, I got like an hour meter for my meditations. Yeah, I think I did like 70 hours of it last year or something. Yeah, okay. So I put like quite a big effort into it. And now like I really associate riding with it. And I think that I enjoy my riding more than ever now because of just that zone that you can get in where thoughts kind of come. But there's actually like a Buddhist saying where it's like thoughts enter like thieves in an empty house.
Yeah, okay.
So it's like you've got these thoughts that are coming in, and they're these thieves that are trying to steal your attention, but there's no attention to be stolen, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
And I kind of can relate that now to riding.
Yeah.
And like the other day, I talked about it on another podcast, but I did my first ever 30-minute moto, and that whole time I just had that vibe in my head of like just thoughts entering like thieves in an empty house.
Yeah.
It's like let it come and let it go. Just like be in the riding. Like this is what you're doing, you know.
And that's what I've got when I'm. It's a similar thing. Like when I'm actually riding, not much else. You know, nothing really comes into my mind. It's just like focusing on what I'm doing next, the next trick, or you know whatever. I'm focused on riding, and then when I'm off my bike and I'm hanging out with my family, I'm focused on my family and just things like that. And then, yeah, if I'm exactly right, if I'm going over my run when I'm at a contest, nothing else enters my mind. It's purely just focused on that.
So is that a technique that you do? Because we had Sam Hill on the podcast, one of the greatest Australian two-wheel athletes of all time. And he is saying that since he was a kid, he would go to his hotel room at a race and he would start his race run at the top of the hill with his eyes closed, and he would watch a goggle view of his race run.
Yeah.
And he could just do it. And he's timed it to where he's within a second.
Yeah, exactly.
Like in his brain, he's within a second of his actual race run. And he said that there's like this insane focus that he developed over years of doing that. And it blew my mind listening to him.
Honestly,
I was just
crazy.
Like, bro, you are a freak. And he would say like, yeah, I thought it'd come and then I just start again.
Yeah.
And he got it to that close, man. It's like a second of your race run.
It's crazy. And
are you doing that same thing?
100%. And I respect that because, you know, even down to the littlest detail, when I'm, you know, concentrated on my run, or, you know, a few people are just before me and they're doing their runs, I'm focused. They say I'm zoned into, all right, this is what I'm doing. I'll go over every little detail. Like if I drop in and do a 7 bar in the spine, and I land a little bit flat in my mind, it's like, okay, I've got to do this little crank. If I land like that little crank and I can hit this next jump, and down to the littlest things, it's like, all right, I'll land good there. That's right. I need to pump the next quarter this much. Like literally down to the littlest detail. Everything in my mind is so clear, and I think I've always just had that. And I do that, and I've always done that. And now you see it more and more other people doing it, and I think I might have. I'm not going to say I was the first one, but I was one of the first to make it known that that's what I was doing, I guess.
Right.
I was so zoned in that you'd see me, my little head movements, and I was concentrated on which trick I was doing, and that was just because I was in my own mind, concentrating on every little detail that was happening. But now you're watching a finals, and most people are doing it.
So you're doing that before your run, literally
I
right
do
before
it when I wake up, and then, I'll leave it a couple hours, then I'll zone back into it. All right, this is what I'm doing. And then as the contest closes in, while the contest is happening and other people are doing their runs, I'm in my own head concentrating on what I'm doing. I can't really tell you what other people do at an event. If the event finishes, I couldn't really tell you, oh, he did this, that was sick.
Yeah.
Or I couldn't think of, I couldn't go back and tell you what that person did, like in their run, because I'm so focused on my run. I don't really watch the event. I'm watching, but I'm not zoned in.
Yeah.
I'm so zoned into myself, and I think I'm so focused on what I need to do that everything around me doesn't matter. The outside noise, the crowd and stuff doesn't matter. I'm so just focused on doing the run that I had planned. And that's nowadays I'm rocking up to an event like, all right, I'm going to do this run. It's like, don't worry about anything else, just focus on this run. And that's, down to the littlest detail, I'm going over that in my mind.
Dude, that's such like a beautiful skill to have. Like there's a quote from Marcus Aurelius. He wrote a book called Meditations. And I can't remember the exact quote. I almost want to get it fucking tattooed just so I can always remember it, because it really changed my life in a sense, and it was something that made the meditation stuff really make sense to me. And the quote is basically like, inside every man's mind should be a sanctuary similar to a boat pulling into a harbor. And it's like, you've got these waves of the outside world, and they're just like, no matter how tumultuous the outside world is at the time, you can pull into this harbor in terms of like, just close your eyes, sit by yourself, to just be, like you said, in your own mind. Like you're at a contest, and it's the fucking Olympics.
Yeah.
Like there's no more bigger pressure than you can get. Like, I don't know how many. Do you know how many people watch the BMX finals? Like,
not sure of the number yet.
Can you Google that, Rones? Like, how many people watch BMX at the Olympics? Like that, it would be staggering.
Yeah, it'd be crazy.
So to think about, in terms of the waves hitting the wall of the harbor, like it can't get more intense than that environment.
Yeah.
And here you are able to have this sanctuary within your own mind. Like, it's a special ability, man.
Yeah, and I think that's like what's helped me is I've had those. I guess that's natural, right? Like that's just me, and that's just what I do. It's not something I guess I've learned along the way, but I've just learned naturally. I haven't really put in the time to be like, oh, I need to try and stay focused on this one minute run in my own mind. It's just that just came naturally. I've always just been able to do that. If I need to focus on something, I can stay focused on that one thing. And I think overall, I wanted to be successful in BMX, and I stayed focused on that path.
Yeah.
And then obviously I could stay focused in the minor details that needed to come with it. Man,
that's so impressive.
Yeah.
Like, and to me, like that's something that I work hard on. Like I still have to work super hard on it. And I know I've also noticed too, I was only thinking about this just the other day with the meditation side of things. Like, I've got the monthly tracker on my phone. I'm a nerd when it comes to like statistics.
Yeah.
I'm not very good at math, but I love looking at graphs.
Yeah.
Like, show me a graph of like either progression or regression, and like I can fucking get down with it, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
Like, so I try and put everything in my life on these graphs, and I think that's why like the iTunes stats go good and the
Yeah,
YouTube
okay.
and the, like any statistic in my life I really care about, my shit does better.
Yeah.
And that meditation thing is one of those verticals in my life where I've got it on my health app, and I can see like I average 15 minutes a day
Yeah.
for this month, and then next month it was 12 minutes a day, and next, you know, then you go 10 minutes a day, then it shoots up to 18. But man, like last month I haven't looked at the graph, but it would be lower, like significantly lower than normal. Like I
Yeah.
was slacking big time for whatever reason, and that feeling of having that sanctuary, like it just wasn't as available to
For
me
sure.
because I just hadn't been putting in the work in that particular area of my life. So I think that it's a super important skill to have, like whether it's for your BMX or whatever it's for.
Yeah.
Like it's definitely something I think worth staying committed to, because there is a benefit to having that place that you can go.
100%. And even like when it comes back to routines and stuff like that, like I've been out of a routine for the last 3 weeks after the Olympics now, and you know, now I'm starting to get back into it. I'm trying to, like, I'm right. I rode on Sunday. Today is Thursday. And you know, I rode Sunday, and that was after having 3 weeks off. I hadn't ridden for 3 weeks. And then after that session, I went out, got drunk for the first time in 2 years. You know, I had a couple of days rest. I rode yesterday, horrible. Like, just the littlest little things where I'm like, what the hell did that happen? Like, just on my bike, and it comes down to just being out of a routine. Obviously, I had done something different. I went out and drunk and celebrated with my friends, but it's because I haven't been in a routine. I feel horrible. And then today I rode and I felt a little bit better than I did yesterday. But it takes time to get back into it. And now I'm like, well, I need to get back into the routine for me to start feeling good. And you know, like I was completely out of routine. I was, you know, not eating healthy. Like hotel quarantine. Yeah, exactly. 2 weeks hotel quarantine. I was like, I went into hotel quarantine like, I can just relax a little bit. I don't have to work out every day like I was a couple months ago when I got back from the Worlds. And just little things like that. I end up working out, I think, every second day just because it would kill some time. And I would eat the desserts in hotel quarantine every day, and just sort of letting loose, not putting pressure on myself. Like if I wanted to do something, I would do it. But that's not my routine. Yeah. So it was fully out of whack at the moment, and now I'm starting to get back into it. And I'm like, man, that's why I love routine, because it just makes you feel better overall.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally get it. And it's so hard to get back into it, man.
It is, 100%
we did,
it is.
when me and Sammy went to WA and we did Manji, bro, it was like over a month.
Yeah.
It took me to get back. I mean, I got hurt a little bit. Like I had a crash, so like my shoulders were real sore. I couldn't really train properly, and that, there were some factors outside of my control where I couldn't fully get it back. But it's just like now I'm to the point where like I almost, friggin' nickname was Gypsy, like because I traveled my whole 20s, you know, and now I'm just like, I don't want to leave, man. Like I can't leave. It derails the program.
Exactly
too
right.
much.
And that's the hard thing about me being such a routine guy. Is like when I'm traveling, and because I do travel back and forth, you know, obviously before COVID times, but I was traveling quite a bit, and it does wreck your routine for sure. You go overseas, you know, ready, and then you come back and you haven't worked out for a week and a half or so, and you're like, well,
you deal with jet lag.
Yeah, jet lag and all that stuff, and it just messes up the routine. But I've been out of a routine for like 3 weeks now, and it's like, man, I hate being out of a routine, and now it's time to get back into it.
Oh yeah, dude, I totally get it. Did you find any?
Nah, I couldn't find any.
Yeah. It's in the millions though, you know, like it's just literally.
I think the BMX racing had like 100 million views in Rio or something like that. So we're still waiting for the numbers to see what ours was, but millions and millions of viewers.
What's it been like coming back? Is there a noticeable difference in how it feels to be Logan Martin after winning a gold medal? Like, what does winning a gold medal for Australia do when you come back to Australia?
I mean, it is, you know, it is crazy. You know, a lot more people know my name, and you know, people know who I am in BMX, but you know, if I'm just going to the shop or whatever, it's not usually common that someone will bump into me unless they're a BMX rider or scooter rider or something like that. They'll know me. But
And then they probably feel like a homie, you know.
Yeah, exactly. And then now it's like just like random people will know who I am, and you know, and if we go to like Daniel Durs, the guy that came second, he's massive in his country now. And I saw like an interview this morning saying he had to hire a bodyguard while he's in his country because he's gone
Just getting swamped,
like a megastar in his country now. And you know, it's obviously not to that extent here. We have a lot more, you know, gold medalists and things in Australia, but a lot more people know my name now, which is crazy. And it's, you know, it's cool. It's cool when they say, "Oh, we watched you on the Olympics." Like, "Oh, it was amazing," and it's like that's, you know, that's awesome to hear, and it blows my mind because, you know, I'm just a kid on a bike and I just ride a bike. It's, you know, it's crazy. Honestly, it's crazy. It's cool.
Yeah, and I mean, I know from knowing you that there's a certain, like, there's an athlete that can kind of like buy into the success and buy into their own name and buy into the hype, and I know you're not that kind of guy, but it's undeniable the like effect that it has on like your brand as such.
For sure.
So it must be weird as a guy that is kind of super humble and down to earth in the way that you are to then receive all of that extra attention. But I do think you're in a pretty cool position now where you can use that platform to, you know, do big things for, you know, yourself, your family, for the sport, for the next generation as well.
Yeah, no, exactly right. And I think now that, you know, I've been pumped all over the news and things like that in Australia, and I do look at it like, man, this is big, and I can start to set up my future even more now. You know, I've done pretty well in my career, right? And I'm doing my best to set up my future. I don't know what's to come after BMX. It's not a long-lived sport, but this will help that next step for sure. You know, there's heaps of schools that want me to go there. There's heaps of requests coming in, TV shows and all that stuff. And it's like, I'll do my best to take every opportunity to get my name even more out there. And yeah, it is crazy, but I am going to use this time to do my best to set up my future as well, and take every opportunity that comes from this win.
Yeah, because I mean, there is, like we said sort of earlier, you know, like there's the sport in general at play. And do you think now that you winning the gold medal is something that you think like Australian cycling will get more behind? Like, do you think that they're, like, in your opinion as like a figurehead in the sport, like what do you think can happen now as a result of this gold medal? Like, do you see more infrastructure? Do you see more skate parks being open?
For sure.
Like, because I mean, I know you probably don't personally want to give yourself that credit or kind of like say you're responsible for this happening or whatever, but I mean, it's undeniable, like there is things that will happen as a result of an Australian winning the first ever gold medal in BMX Freestyle.
Yeah, and it is crazy to see the amount of support we've had, like leading into the Olympics. They built us a replica skate park, you know, a replica of the Tokyo course, just so we could ride it for 4 weeks. And you know, that was a few hundred grand investment. And I think if you look at how much money they invested just to get the outcome, and now the outcome happened, they wanted a medal. We got the gold medal. Yeah. Now I think it's, you know, we're going to get so much more support. They're already planning for new skate parks and to hold events here on the Gold Coast, and you know, especially leading into the 32 Olympics for Brisbane, where we're setting up like an action sports hub, because that's the one thing that's missing for the 32 Olympics is an action sports hub for skateboarding and BMX, and so we're working on that. That's the bigger plan. And you know, the replica course that they built us in Carrara, that's going to stay, and then we're going to extend from that. And we had like an indoor skate park. We just took that down, which is going to move over to Carrara. So we'll have an indoor and an outdoor park there. And we honestly, there's already things in the works, which is crazy. And I can only see it just getting more and more backing, which is, you know, crazy. It's just, yeah, as I said, they the amount of money they put into it before it just to get the like one outcome that they wanted was crazy. And they got the outcome, and now it's only going to, you know, increase that. Yeah, man. And I mean, just think about the opportunity that can create for kids. Because, I mean, like, you didn't come from a lot, man. You know, like, exactly. You're a kid that, you know, humble beginnings. Like, because you're from Logan. You know, that's a part of
Southeast Queensland, where like people literally joke about Logan,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
it's like you're a kid that with 2 wheels and 2 pedals and some handlebars, made it from a place to the top of the world stage.
Yeah.
And like, man, that's like you've kind of presented young kids with like a legitimate option to become an Olympian and to, like you said, you wanted to make something of your life. Like you've kind of laid out this roadmap for more people to do it.
For sure. And everyone's now, like everyone in the media and stuff, oh, Logan from Logan, I grew up in Logan City, and that gives everyone that lives in Logan City, all the kids and stuff that are in Logan City, that gives them the hope that, maybe I can become something. And, it's true. I was just a little kid, just with a passion, and I truly went after what I wanted. So I'm stoked that it can, give hope to kids that, think, I'm growing up here. I can't do anything. I've got to go do what, not go do a normal job or follow the path of what's happening in the area. But you truly can just make whatever you want with your own life, just with the right decisions.
Yeah, man. No, I think it's so true. And did you feel that stigma growing up in Logan?
I knew there was a lot of, like, obviously I knew how Logan City was. It wasn't the nicest place. I knew, I don't even know how to put it. There was a lot of chance for me to go the wrong path.
Yeah.
But when I look back at it, I just wanted something so bad. I never let that hold me back.
Yeah.
I think it's hard. I'm struggling to find the words for it, but I never let the area I grew up in affect where I wanted to go in the end.
Yeah.
Once I made enough money, I moved out of Logan City because I didn't want to be in the area anymore. So I moved down to the Gold Coast because I like it. I liked it more, and that was just sort of what I did. I didn't let where I lived affect how my life was going to go.
Yeah.
I don't think that's where you live has any effect on where you truly can end up in life.
But do you think that like that seems rare for some of the people that you did grow up with though, right? Like it seems like more people kind of go the other way that come from those kind of areas.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know what it is. I think like it just come from within myself that I didn't want to be just an average guy. I just didn't want to just, I'll stop riding now, I'll go get a normal job. I took a chance, right? I gave myself a year after high school, like, all right, I'm going to do my best to just work hard every day at riding my bike, and I'll, see where I can go. And I progressed in that year, and then I started traveling, and I made it work. And I don't know. I don't know. I just didn't want to be that normal guy. I didn't want to go and work a normal job and things like that. I don't know.
And it's funny, like, I kind of can relate to that in a sense. Like, I guess I didn't do the athletic thing. But yeah, I just always felt like I didn't want to be like that either. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
No,
like if you do want to. But I mean, for me, and the funny thing is like, it doesn't come out of ego either. Like it's not like there's a thing where you think that, like, I know you don't think you're better than anybody else, but there is just, for some people, I don't know, there is like this drive to just not be normal. Yeah,
exactly. And that's right. It doesn't come from a place of like, oh, I'm better than you because I'm living my life and doing what I want to do. It's purely just, I just wanted something else. I don't, even to this day, gold medals and whatever, riding my bike professionally. And I don't think I'm better than anyone. I just continue living my life and treat people with the same respect that they treat me, and just continue on with my life. And that's just purely what it is. I just wanted something more. I didn't want to just be the normal 9-to-5 guy or just go get a normal job. And I gave myself a chance, and I gave myself, every opportunity to make that happen.
I think you said something cool before where you said you gave yourself a year. I think that with the young people that I've been around, and when I was younger, the thing was like I got into university, I just didn't go. I just didn't show. I was like, I just don't know that I can do that.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like I had it in my head. I was like, it'll always be there. Like there's no, I guess I just never personally felt the pressure from my parents. Like, my parents wanted me to go to university, and my parents wanted me then, if I wasn't going to go to university, to get a trade.
Yeah.
But it's like, I always didn't feel the pressure from other people, and I just was like comfortable to do what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
But I also just kind of knew exactly what you said. It's like, what's a year? What's a year of just, for me, it was buying a camera and driving around Australia in a van trying to film as many good dudes ride as I could.
Yeah.
And it's like, to me, it made sense in my head that 1 year or 2 years or 3 years, it wasn't going to fuck my life.
Nah, exactly.
And I think that there's a lot of kids out there that maybe feel some kind of crazy pressure from like their parents or society, and it's like, the message isn't drop out of school and you know, go fuck around, do whatever you want. Like, you're obviously really grinding and really dedicated
that's right.
to what you were doing, but it's like, I actually think you can take more risks than what people actually think they can.
100%. And that's right, I gave myself a year after high school, so I finished year 12, and I'm, you know, my parents wanted me to get a job or whatever. There was the pressure there, but I didn't, you know, there wasn't crazy pressure there. They obviously understood that I wanted to ride my bike as well. And, you know, I gave myself a year, right, I'm going to work every day at seeing where I can take this. And probably later on in that year, my dad got me a job just through one of his mates, and at a cabinet making place. And it was sort of like, you know, I went there for the first day, and I was sweeping the floors, and then they'd get me doing something small, like a small little job, and then I'd finish the job, and then I'd jump back on the broom, you know, around a dude that's making a mess on a bandsaw, and I'm like, man, this ain't for me.
Yeah.
Like, I literally went to lunch on the first day and didn't come back, and I went to the skate park in the afternoon. I'm like, no, it's keep grinding away down at the skate park, and I just saw a bigger picture for myself. I didn't want to be the dude working, and you know. That doesn't come down to my work ethic. I have an amazing work ethic on my bike, but I just knew there was something bigger for me that I could work towards. I gave myself that year, started to see things, you know, progressing, and got to the point where I knew I could start to travel and start to, you know, do pretty well for myself, and picked up some sponsors, and then obviously things started, you know, rolling forward from there. But yeah, that year that I gave myself was massive. I think, you know, if I had just got out of school and gone to get a trade, I would have had, you know, 4 years doing a trade where I wasn't putting much time into my bike, and then, you know, things would have been different. But I just gave myself that time, and then it just all progressed from there. And that'll be different. That'll be different for everyone, for sure. Someone might need 4 years of their time, but you know, might give up after 2 and then go and do a normal job. But if they stuck it out for another 2 years, that, you know, they might have been able to follow that, you know, chase their dreams. And it's different for everyone, but that was what I did. I had a job for half a day, and then I went to the skate park.
So there's another cool book called The War of Art. It's like a pretty small, easy read, and if you wanted to read a book, so like the meditation thing, like you're like, I didn't really know about the start. You're saying you're a slow reader, just give it. Like, apply your same work ethic to reading some books, and it'll be just as easy for you. Okay. But there's a really cool one called The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield, and he's a great author. Have you ever seen the movie Legend of Bag of Ants?
Nah.
It's like a golf movie with Will Smith and Matt Damon. It's pretty cool. But he wrote that book. He wrote Gates of Fire, which is like a big epic Greek war. Like, basically that was the basis for the movie 300.
Yep.
But anyway, so he wrote this book called The War of Art, and it was about overcoming resistance. So like the self-doubt, the lack of motivation, all of these kind of things that would kind of stop you from...
Like, hold you back.
Exactly. Stop you from getting an Olympic gold medal.
Yeah.
And this book talks about that. And one of the things that really resonated with me when I read this book was the advice of just be a professional.
Yeah.
And I think that everyone can be a professional without being paid like a professional, or without the sponsors, or without the contract, or without the guarantees that a professional has.
Yeah.
And so his argument that he made in this book was he just acted like a professional rider. And I did the same thing with this podcast. Like, I had my visa shit go down in America. I got essentially kicked out, and I just came back to Australia with like nothing, no money, no idea. I had a couple cameras, enough to do the podcast, and I was like, I'm just going to do the podcast.
Yeah.
And I just was a professional at it from day one. And people that's one of the big questions that I get asked by people is, how long did it take you to go full time in the podcast? And I said, day one.
Yeah.
I literally come home and I said, I will be just full time. I'm just going to be a professional. I hadn't read this book at this point. And I'd never heard anyone kind of talk about that. And in my head, that wasn't like the ideology, but that's how I treated it.
Yeah, for sure.
And then, you know, like this guy, he was a professional writer, even though he worked at a post office, you know, and I think that, it seems like you did the same thing. You were just like, I'm just going to be a professional, even though I'm not technically a professional.
100%. And I understand 100% what you're saying there, because that was me. When I started focusing on riding, I stopped partying, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to focus on BMX. And at that point, it was just focusing on riding my bike as much as I can and progressing on my bike. And then I started traveling to events, and I'm like, 2013, it sort of started kicking off for me, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna do this professionally. I'm gonna treat this as a professional sport. I'm gonna work out. I'm gonna be an athlete. I'm gonna work out. I'm gonna eat properly. I'm gonna put in the hours on my bike, and that's exactly what I did. I treated it professionally, and in a sport that wasn't really professional at the time. People were, everyone still partied the night before events, and no one worked out. And I was just focusing on me. Like, this is how I can be my best. Treat the sport professionally. And that was exactly what I did. I'm like, all right, I'm going to be a professional here, and that goes in every aspect of that. Chatting with sponsors, riding my bike and making sure I feel good in that sense as well. But obviously, doing my best in the business side of BMX as well. Yeah. So in every aspect of freestyle BMX, I do my best to treat it professionally.
Yeah. I mean, that's just exactly what I took from the stories that you're taking earlier. It's just like, and there's that one guy, man, that always comes along in every sport. Like, to reference motocross, it's Ricky Carmichael. Yeah. It's like, here's the dude that came along and acted like the world's gnarliest professional athlete. Yeah. To the point where he elevated the sport to now everybody. Like, if you want to win a championship, you have to be a gnarly professional athlete at this. And so is that, I didn't know that you were maybe one of the guys that kind of first did that for BMX.
Yeah, I believe I was one of the first guys. It was an unprofessional sport when I was starting out. As I said, everyone would party and stuff the night before events. Now you don't see that. Everyone's not drinking until the after party, or not drinking at all. Exactly. And it's over the past few years, it's become so popular that everyone's working out. Everyone that's in the finals works out and eats properly, and is a professional. And since 2013, when I started competing, that's what I've done. And then as the years went on, people are seeing like, oh, I'm doing, I'm winning events, or I'm doing this. It's like, maybe I need to, work out as well, or things like that. And it just started clicking with everyone that they have to treat it like a professional sport. And I believe I was one of the first dudes. No, I wasn't the first dude to work out in freestyle BMX, but just to treat it professionally and stuff, I definitely had an influence on the other guys that are at the top now. Yeah, I believe anyway.
Yeah, it's super cool, and there's always that one dude that comes along, and that guy's normally the champ for a while.
Yeah, I mean, because I have treated it professionally over the last 8 years, it's what I just keep doing. Yeah, and it's what keeps working for me. Yeah, some people can go get drunk the night before an event and still ride well, but that doesn't work for me. I went and drank on the weekend. I was done for 2 days. But that's just what I've done, and that's just what works for me. So I do that all the time, and that just comes back to routine and doing your process. It's that's my process.
So was there like much self-doubt that you had to overcome during these periods of time, or have you always been able to just like kind of shelve that?
Yeah, when I look back at it, like I won a FIS event in France, and that was sort of my breakthrough moment. Just before that event, I got in contact with Lucas, which has been my agent for the last 8 years.
Oh, you with Myrtle?
Yeah. Oh, sick, I'm with Lucas. So since 2013, and I spoke to him in maybe March or February, and I was talking to him, and he was a bit like iffy whether he wanted to sign another BMX rider, and he's asking me like do you how good are you really? Like, he didn't really follow BMX, and do you think you can do well at events? And I straight up said to him, I wouldn't be going to events if I didn't believe in myself. And I went to an event in France and I won the event. And you know, I never think about this. Like, I never think about, did I have self-doubt at that event? If I look back at it, I just wanted to go and do a good run at that event, and it ended up winning the event. So I never went into the event like, oh, like I can win this event. Like, this is crazy. Like I could probably do well here. It was just like, I want to go and do well at the qualifying, do well in the semifinals. And then I made it to the finals. Like, shit, like I'm going to do my best run today as well. And then I won the event. But I always just believed that I could do it. And I said that to Lucas on the phone, and I said I wouldn't be going overseas to this event if I didn't think I could do well. And I straight up said that to him, and he's like, all right, like he gave me a chance, and then we got some sponsors, and we've been working together for 8 years now, so it's crazy.
Yeah, I actually didn't know that you were with Metal. He's a GA.
So that's a good dude.
Yeah, fuck that. Yeah, that's crazy that there's that one moment too. So was that like your first big win then? Yeah.
So I went to an amateur event in 2011, and I won that, but that wasn't, that was an amateur event overseas. And then 2012 I went to Paris, and that was my first professional event where I would verse like Daniel Durs and some of the pros in the sport, or the top pros, and I won that event, but it was only a small mini ramp event. So sort of when I won that event, I'm like, shit, like that was at the end of 2012, right? So going into 2013, I'm like, shit, I need to go and, try my luck at some of these other events, Simple Session, Feasts, and just, travel as much as I can. And I went to Simple Session in February, came 6th at that event, and I sort of like messed up a bit. So I'm like, shit, I rode like crap and I still came 6th. Like, all right, I'm going to go home. I'm going to work towards getting to Feasts in Montpellier in France. And then I won the event. And then I think like the next 7 events, the next 6 Feast events, I won every single one of them in the next 2 years, over the course of 2 years or something like that. And so sort of when I came on the scene, I was the guy from the start, without sounding cocky. Like I was not just, I was making a final here and there. I was, winning a lot of events from when I first started competing. And that just came with belief. Trying to put down my best run, and then just believing that I could put down my best run.
And there's a funny way that momentum starts to build, right?
Yeah.
And that's probably one of the things that I think more about these days is just not letting go of momentum. Like once you've got momentum, it's kind of the routine thing, right? Yeah. It's like once you fall out of routine, I guess there's a certain form of momentum in routine, but that momentum is powerful, man. 100%. And I think that it can start from zero, and it's just like someone's momentum can be like, okay, like Mitch. I don't know if you know Mitch Orville. He's like I guess you just say he's like an influencer kind of dude, but he was his dad was the Angry Dad guy.
Okay, yeah,
and
I know.
So he's run 3Ks every single day this year.
Yeah, right.
And he was fucking fat and partying balls, and then just decided that I'm going to run 3Ks every day.
Crazy.
And it's like, I went and did a 3K run for him the other day because when he came on, I was like, I'll go do a 3K run for you. It fucking sucked. And I definitely didn't run 3Ks the next day or the next day.
Yeah.
But there's this momentum that he created for himself. And he's like, whatever day we're in now, like he literally hasn't stopped.
Yeah.
And his whole life has changed.
Yeah,
his whole life is so different.
And that just comes down to staying consistent with it. He'll be running 3Ks today, and it'll be way easier than it was on January 1st.
Insanely.
Just because he's stayed consistent with it. And that comes back to like the way I, ride my bike. If I do a 1080 every day for the next year,
it's going to be like that 3Ks.
Yeah, exactly. So that just comes with consistency and keep continuing to put in the work. And then you can continue going forward.
How do you feel about each contest? All right, where are you? Good time? We'll wrap it up in a sec. I know you got to get out of here. Yeah. He's on daddy duties.
Yeah, dad duties.
For me, right? I had another thought I recently had. I honestly feel like the success or failure of this podcast after 4 years and like 270 plus episodes I feel like every podcast I do is like make or break.
Yeah.
Like I went and got lunch today. I'm like, fuck man, if this podcast doesn't go good with Logan, like this is it.
For sure.
And it's like, that's so weird. Like that's unfounded. That's that's a silly thing to think about. But I probably think that's part of why it does well, is that maybe that element of like me thinking that literally every time I do this could be the thing that fucks it all up, and then it all goes away, and I'm like, I really don't want that. Like I really want to do a good job.
Exactly.
Like, do you have that with comps?
100%. I think that's what keeps me motivated to work hard towards the next event, because it's like, well, if I don't do good at this event, like fuck, like the last 8 years goes down the drain, which it doesn't at all, but that's what I think. And I understand what you're saying so much, because it's just little things within yourself. You convince yourself that, you know, that's going to happen.
That
yeah,
much.
Exactly right. And even if I'm riding a little local event, I put so much pressure on myself to do well, because I'm like, you know, I tell myself certain things like, oh, if I don't do this is going to happen, or you know, and I just, even down to the littlest things, it's just telling yourself things that aren't even there, but that motivates you to continue doing well every step of the way. And yeah, I mean, that's funny that you say that, because it's exactly the same as me. Every event I need to do well, or else, you know, I tell myself it's, you know, something bad's going to happen, or, you know, it's make or break. Exactly. And it's even down to the littlest event where there's fuck all prize money and nothing on the line, literally nothing on the line. It's make or break. And you know, what's funny actually, that at the Olympics on the Saturday was a seeding round, right? There's only 9 riders. It's a seeding round. No one gets knocked out. It's just to find an order for the Sunday. On the Saturday, I was most nervous, way more nervous than I was in the finals for some reason. And it's just, there was nothing on the line that day. It was just, you know, I was telling myself like, I need to do well in these 2 runs so I can seed good, which was irrelevant really. Yeah. But you know, it just comes down to what you tell yourself, and then how you want to you know, take action with that. Yeah,
it's funny, man. Like it's just a weird feeling, and
it's strange.
Yeah, and I don't know why, but yeah, it was just recently. I don't know when it even really popped into my head, but yeah, I kind of realized that I was like, dude, there's this crazy stress every time that you do a podcast, and I think part of it too comes down to maybe the fact that I just feel so lucky to be doing what I'm doing as well. Sure. And a lot of times I don't really feel worthy of it in a way too, you know, and I think there's probably some things that you've said throughout this podcast where I feel like you might even have a little bit of that, where you just think it's just purely luck. Yeah. The way that, you know, you're able to focus your mind that way and other people can't. It's like, there's a part of me that I'm just so fucking lucky to be in this position. Like none of this shit was planned. Yeah. Like I obviously worked towards it, but at no point did I even dream that this could happen. So maybe there's a little bit of that, like where, I don't know, like you feel like you're just
grateful to be where you are, and you don't want it to go away.
Exactly.
So you continue to work towards it, and that comes down to doing your best every day, so it doesn't go away. Just because you're grateful for where you are, I believe. Yeah.
Is that so? You think that's kind of like you are just so grateful and you want it so bad that you just don't want it to go away.
Yeah, exactly. And I think when I was younger, I wanted to be the guy, you know, at X Games or at Dew Tour. You know, I was watching it on the TV and I was like, oh, that would be sick to be there. And then I got there and it's like, man, this is sick. Like I would never want it to go away. I wanted it so bad when I was younger. You know, why would I stop putting in the work now? It'll all go away if I stop putting in the work. And there's been a few quotes and a few sayings in this podcast, but I like it. Like, it's hard to get to the top, but it's harder to stay at the top. You know, because you've already got to where you want to be. It's hard to stay up there, and you know, you'll see a lot of guys get to the top and then stop putting in the work, and then, you know, it'll all go away. And I wanted it so bad when I was younger. I always tell myself, like, why would I stop putting in the work when I'm fully capable of continuing to put in the work? So I'm so grateful that I made it to the top, and I wanted it. I wanted it so bad, and I wanted to stay around for as long as I can. So I keep putting in the work.
Well, I think that to the people that get to the top and then they fall off, I think what happens from things that I've observed in people that have had that happen to them, I I think that they expected something different when they got there.
Yeah, I agree.
And then they weren't doing it for the right reasons.
Yeah.
And I think that you can see that with people that get rich. And I think that, like, I know for me personally, like, we didn't grow up with a lot of money. And that, like, really fucked with me when I was a kid. And if I could go back to my childhood and, like, change the way I thought about certain things, I would definitely change the way I related money and my circumstance, right? Yeah. And that, I think that kind of, like, tainted the way that I did some shit when I was younger. But now, like, I feel so lucky to have been around people that I just seen come into, like, crazy money and then just be crazy unhappy. Yeah. And it fully changed my whole perspective around that thing that kind of did cause me problems before in my life. Yeah. Because it's like, dude, you can want this thing so bad, but if you want it for the wrong reason, then you'll get there and it's instant. Like, the realization is instant. Yeah. And it's like you could win your first X Games gold medal and make it to where you wanted to be. And if you didn't want that thing for the right reason, that gold medal means shit. Yeah.
Honestly, it's the way you think about everything has an effect on the way everything goes. Yeah. And I agree 100%. If you expected something to feel different when you got to the top, and it's not that, then it's that's why you fall off. And I don't know. Maybe it come down to I never had much expectation. I just wanted to be traveling the world riding my bike. Yeah. At the biggest events. Winning the events and stuff like that. That's it. All feels amazing, and that's how I can keep going, I guess. But I didn't have an expectation of how it was going to feel. Yeah. I guess. I don't know. That might sound weird, but
well, I think that comes down to, like, you're doing it for the right reason. Yeah. You're not hinging your happiness on a result as such, and I think that that's the thing that has probably kept you at the top for so long, is that it's like it's there for the right reason. Like, it's sort of easy to say because you are winning, but it's like you're so invested, like you said, in the processes, and it becomes about being the best version of yourself and honing into this zone. Like, I personally think that you probably crave that zone, like that space where nothing matters. Like, you probably crave that a lot more than you maybe even give it credit for, and it's like, just if you can work your way into that place, like, that's probably a reward enough without the result,
Yeah, no, exactly right. And everything comes internally. Like, I work towards something because I want something on the inside. Like, it's everything I tell myself. I want to go do this because of what I'm telling myself. And I mean, everything comes from your mind. Motivation, expectation, discipline, everything comes from within your mind, and you're well aware of that as well. And everything comes down to the way certain things make you feel. Then you're right. For me, everything feels right when I'm working towards something, and I don't have an expectation of the way something should feel, but everything feels right for me, I think.
No. Well, it is pretty much bang on 4, mate. I know you got to get out of here. Selfishly, I'd love to do another hour. We'll do it again.
I know, that 2 hours went really quick.
Goes quick, eh? That's what I always say to people. They're like, whenever someone says they don't have 3 hours to do it, in your case, you've got somewhere to be. Yeah. But when someone's like, I don't know about 3 hours, I'm like, bro, it goes like that.
Yeah,
Trust
honestly,
me, it goes
so
like
quick.
that.
Yeah, crazy.
But I really appreciate your time. Congratulations on being the world's first Olympic gold medalist in BMX Freestyle.
Crazy.
It's literally your life's work. It couldn't happen to a better guy as well, in terms of someone that is family man. You've worked towards this for a long time, and I think you're a really good representative to wear that gold medal, and I guess, like, all the things that now it's going to come after it in the next few years and in the future. So
I appreciate it. I appreciate everything you said, and honestly, I'm stoked to come on this podcast and have a chat with you. I have wanted to do it for a long time. We have spoke about it a long time ago. So I'm stoked we got it done, and I appreciate everything.
Yeah, I'm glad the way it worked out. I'm glad it happened
now.
post gold
Exactly.
medal.
Yeah, I agree, 100%. So
And cheers to Sammy for setting it up.
hooking that up. Yeah, Sammy's a good dude.
The man. That's it, mate. If you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe. And to listen to the full 3-hour podcast, search Gypsy Tales in your favorite podcast platform or click the link in the description below. Gypsy Gang.